Stacie Kendall, who's from the New South Wales Trade and Investment Industry and Assessment Unit. Stacie is currently delivering an ANTS action learning program, and she'll speak about the program and the integration of ANTS into informal learning processes.
Some time back, MSAC engaged a consultant to develop a guide, some guidance material regarding how we can encourage ANTS and the use of non-technical skills into our industry. And so what was returned back was a workshop. And this then was handed to me, and I had a look at it. From what started off as one action learning program, I took that program and divided it into 3 platforms. The platforms starting off with self-directed learning, workshops and coaching. Self-directed learning, the challenge there was, how am I going to engage people into taking it upon themselves to go, engage in learning, put in that discretionary effort and that voluntary effort. But we do this anyway. It's one of the requirements to take some responsibility in your own learning when you're doing a degree. So there are people that take responsibility for their own learning, and this particular part of the program could be used as that transitional platform for somebody who's looking to go into that further study. The workshop, obviously, it's a group of people playing around with the ideas of ANTS, but the other mechanism is coaching. And it's a tricky one, because coaching relies on relationships. And there needs to be that chemistry between the people for that relationship to be successful in coaching, and that can be very difficult to capture. So that was also one of the other challenges. So in order to try and make this all work and fit into the organisational needs, I stepped away from traditional adult learning principles and started looking at organisational effectiveness principles. And I stumbled across, I already knew about Dr. John Spencer, but I re-stumbled across the staff development principles. So there's 10 of them, and I just want to draw your attention to the last 3, heterogeneity, altruistic vision and accountability and responsibility, because they're attitude-based type values, principles. And this is where the non-technical skills can contribute to these areas. So when we talk about heterogeneity, we talk about the cultural diversity of our workforce and the advantages that diversity has in our organisation and what it brings to the learning platform for the organisation. Altruism is the things that the individuals, their own value system, their loyalty, their compassion. So non-technical skills filled into that. And of course, accountability and responsibility, somewhere it fits with the leadership area. It was really good in the exercise out there to hear some people bring up that they're looking at non-technical skills in their recruitment selection process, because that's really where it should begin. And now I'm not saying that you should develop an assessment to wheedle out people who don't have these skills, but you need to establish a baseline so you have an idea of what their capabilities are, so that way you know where to put some training into them. When we take a person into our organisation, we are essentially bringing them into a relationship with the organisation, because that's what an organisation is, essentially, is people working towards a common goal. So Kylie asked the question earlier about the people that they were training got focused on the technical aspects, and somehow the non-technical skills were getting overlooked. And Dave mentioned in his presentation that the technical skills, the non-technical skills need to be delivered in association with technical skills, and I agree. But that doesn't mean that training non-technical skills outright doesn't have a place. And so it's in your staff development, that's where it should begin. You start to build that relationship with recruitment and selection, going through to the induction, supervision, evaluation, and right through to the development of that individual's career in your organisation, because it's a relationship. So it needs to start early, so that way they have these skills, the base skills already in place before they get to that point where they start to really be challenged with the technical skills. So the program itself, and this is where I'm going to be really, really quick now, the self-directed learning, I've tied how each platform could marry up to each of the staff development principles, but I'm just going to tell you about the program. So the program, the idea behind it is that you identify who's going to be your participants, who's going to be your learners, and who's going to be your coaches. The first step is to build up the coach's knowledge in non-technical skills. So we would put the coaches through the self-directed learning. Once you've got the coach through that process, you pull the coach and the learners into the workshop. That way the facilitator gets a bit of a feel for the natural relationship, the chemistry between people, because obviously if there is that chemistry between people, makes your job of selecting a coach and a learner, like pairing those two together, a lot easier. And so I thought it would be important to have that process happen in the workshop. Then the coaching part of it has some structured areas in trying to maintain that relationship and bring about practical opportunities that's going to benefit the organisation, and it doesn't become just a training for training's sake. And so it's been piloted in the coal sector. That's the workshop only, and I'm looking for volunteers for it to be piloted in. I will, be quite happy to work with you in implementing that, because it's a learning process for me as well. We'd like to put this product out to be available to the industry, and we'd like to have it right. We'd like to have it as functional as possible as we can get it to be.